And we're back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for Thursday evening's Europa League round of 16 first legs. And this is the second of our 3 European prediction videos for this week. For those of you who haven't watched yesterday's Champions League predictions video, that is available for you at the top of your screen right now. Although, to be honest, given how many views it has already got, I'd be surprised if any of you watching this haven't watched that one yet. So a massive thank you for all the support you've already given the Champions League video this week. Whilst you're around, please do consider dropping a like on this video and subscribing to the channel if you're new around here with notifications turned on, so you don't miss out on tomorrow's video, which will of course be my preview and predictions for the Europa Conference League round of 16 first legs. As for this Europa League though, as always, we have got 8 matches taking place on Thursday afternoon and evening, 4 early kickoffs and 4 late kickoffs. But as you can see at the top of your screen, our results so far in this Europa League following the playoff stand at 84 out of 160. Not quite as good as the Champions League, but not far off, and 14 correct scores across the competition so far. So I'm pretty happy with where I'm doing in this Europa League. Let's see how I do in these round of 16 first leg matches. And we'll start off with the early kickoffs as always, and the first of those sees AZ Alkmaar taking on Tottenham Hotspur, where for me, the chat needs to be about the strikers, because Tottenham, since Solanke's injury, have seriously been struggling to put the ball in the back of the net. Meanwhile, their former academy graduate, the boy has become a man over in Holland, Troy Parrott, is AZ Alkmaar's top goal scorer this season, and I think Tottenham fans will be wishing he was lining up for them rather than their opponents for this match. Now, in terms of the form of these two sides, both sides were actually beaten in their previous match, despite having a significantly higher possession than their opponents in said match. AZ lost 3-1 to Heerenveen, Spurs lost 1-0 to Manchester City, but if we're being honest, if it wasn't for that dodgy handball decision against Erling Haaland, it probably would have been 2-0 to Manchester City. It's also worth noting coming into this match that these two sides have already met earlier on this season. That was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was a 1-0 victory to Tottenham on that night, with another one of their strikers, Richarlison, scoring the penalty in that one. However, it should be noted that even with the Spurs victory, they played a significantly weakened team, whereas AZ played near enough their full first team for that match. So now with Spurs probably, I would assume, playing their strongest lineup for this one, I think Spurs should definitely be considered the favourites for this, certainly over the 2 legs, but in my opinion also for the first leg. In terms of the availability of these sides right now, the only guaranteed absentee for AZ is Smith, because he is suspended. For Spurs, as things stand, the actual only guaranteed absentee is going to be Dragusin, given his ACL injury. But from the reports I've been seeing, all of potentially Romero, Van de Ven, Solanke and or Richarlison could be available to play at least some part in this match. The likelihood is at least most, if not all, will be available for the second leg. So Spurs are really starting to get their key players back in and around the squad. Obviously, we've seen the likes of Maddison and Vicario come back in the last couple of weeks, and they've made a difference. For AZ, their injury doubts are Van Bommel and Westerveld, but again, they could potentially be back for this one as well. As I said, I certainly think Spurs should be considered the favourites for this one. Yes, AZ were absolutely phenomenal against Galatasaray in the playoffs, and that should earn them some respect coming into this game against Tottenham. But I'm just a little bit hesitant after what I've seen from them over the last couple of weeks. I still think that on paper, Spurs are the better side. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Spurs. But watch this space. AZ have already proven themselves in this tournament so far, and I think they could do so again. Speaking of sides that have consistently proven the doubters wrong, FCSB take on Lyon at home after getting themselves through the playoffs after a great performance, essentially breezing past PAOK come the end of that tie. They ended up winning it 4-1 on aggregate, but they are coming up against a very, very strong Lyon side at the moment, a side that is actually playing some very good stuff domestically. Yes, they did lose to PSG a couple of weeks ago, but their actual matches in recent weeks have all been against essentially the other European sides in France, and they are winning the majority of them. They also have a player in Ryan Cherki finally starting to show the full potential that sides were sort of speaking about with him a couple of years ago. He's still only 21. He's contributed in all of his last 5 matches, and there's a lot of talk that all the big clubs in Europe are going to be making another move for Cherki in the summer. In terms of the home side for FCSB, they do have a couple of concerns coming into this this one. Cretu is going to be suspended for them. He picked up his third yellow card in the second leg against Pauk, and Alaru and Litzabdru, I can't say his name properly, are both set to miss this game, as well as the second leg as well. They are both significantly injured for the home side. The only injury concern potentially for Lyon is Abner. He looks like he's going to be out for this one. What I would say is that FC do have a very good home record in Europe this season. However, Lyon have yet to lose away from home in the Europa League. I think even though FC have played absolutely phenomenally so far in this competition, I think this is probably where they hit their limit. I think Lyon on paper are a step too far for them, but I'll happily hold my hands up and say I'm wrong when it comes to this prediction next week if they do produce another incredible result. But for me, this is Lyon's game to lose. I'm going 2-0 to the French side. Next up, it is Fenerbahce taking on Rangers. And, well, for Jose Mourinho, as always, the drama seems to be as resilient off the pitch as it is on the pitch. Obviously now suing Galatasaray after the alleged racist abuse issued by Jose Mourinho to the Galatasaray coaching staff following their massive game in the league just a couple of weeks ago. And despite that, their performances on the pitch have not dropped. They are now 18 matches unbeaten in all competitions, and that includes both legs against Anderlecht in the playoffs. So despite finishing 24th, they are actually playing incredibly well at the moment. On the flip side, the side that actually finished in the top 8, Rangers, they have gone completely to pieces over the last few weeks. They have just lost their third home match in a row in the Scottish League, which has handed Celtic the title, and they have sacked Paul Clement as a result. That was actually a couple of weeks ago, but it's the first time we've spoken about Rangers since Paul Clement was sacked. But bizarrely, and this shouldn't be ignored, even though they've lost their last 3 home games, they have won their last 3 away games. And obviously it cannot be ignored that they did finish in the top 8. So on paper, they should actually be considered the favourites for this. But I don't see that by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I would be shocked if there is any other result, certainly in this first leg, than a Fenerbahce victory. In terms of the squads, Fred, the former Manchester United man, he is going to be suspended, and Diego Carlos, the former Aston Villa man, he is out injured. Meanwhile, Rangers actually have no fresh concerns following their 2-1 defeat to Motherwell this weekend, other than, of course, the mental scarrings of having a third home defeat in a row and handing their championship to Rangers once again. Ultimately, the form guide suggests that Fenerbahce should be taking this one pretty comfortably, and I just think they're going to do it. I really can't see them having any other outcome, so I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Fenerbahce. The final early kickoff is Real Sociedad taking on Manchester United. Now, an impressive display from Sociedad allowed them to absolutely blow Michelin away in the playoff round. However, since then, it's not been their absolute best. Obviously, they did play Real Madrid and Barcelona in their last 2 matches, but they did lose both of them. They did beat Leganés 3-0 along the way as well, but you do have to sort of look at the performances against Madrid and Barcelona, where they've not scored in either of those matches. Yes, they had a player sent off very early against Barcelona. Maybe it wouldn't have been 4-0 if that didn't happen. But there are some still concerns over Real Sociedad. The only problem is the concerns around Manchester United are a hell of a lot bigger than the concerns around Real Sociedad. United are just putting in poor performance after poor performance. And if we're being honest, if Bruno Fernandes wasn't on it at the moment, Manchester United wouldn't be doing anything at all. They once again disappointed in the FA Cup at the weekend, losing their grip on the trophy that they won last season. Basically outplayed by Fulham at Old Trafford and eventually losing on penalties. This is actually the 4th time Manchester United have played Real Sociedad in the last few years. And it is worth noting that Manchester United have won on both occasions at Real Sociedad Stadium over those last couple of seasons. But that was with a fully fit squad. Manchester United's squad is incredibly depleted at the moment. We're still waiting for updates regarding Harry Maguire, who went off injured in the game against Fulham at the weekend. All other injured players, the likes of Martinez, Shaw, Mount, Mainu, etc., are all not going to be back for this one. Meanwhile, for Real Sociedad, the likes of Kubo and Aguerd, who missed that Barcelona game, they are going to be back for Real Sociedad. So, for me, even as a Manchester United fan that wants to sit here and put my bias hat on once again and say, well, United always win at Sociedad. Should be an easy one. From what I've seen of us over the last few weeks, and even with Sociedad's poor performances, I say poor performances, poor results against Barcelona and Real Madrid, I'd be surprised if Real Sociedad don't get the win in this first leg. I can't see United scoring, especially with Chido Obi not eligible to play in this tournament either. I'm going for a 1-0 victory to Real Sociedad. From the early kickoffs then, it's now time to move to the later ones, and the first of the late kickoffs sees Ajax taking on Eintracht Frankfurt. It is top of the Eredivisie taking on third in the Bundesliga, but both sides can scout out recent weaknesses in their opponents. Now, Ajax, of course, had a very strong position going into that second leg against Union Saint-Gilloise, but absolutely blew it, meaning it needed extra time for them to get through it, albeit they did have 10 men for 100 minutes in that match. But from a 2-0 lead, you would expect Ajax to come through comfortably, and they did, of course, lose that second leg 2-0 before the extra time comeback. For Eintracht Frankfurt, their recent weaknesses are playing against the top two in Germany and conceding at least 4 goals on both occasions. It really does show the gulf in the gap in the Bundesliga at the moment between the likes of Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen compared to Eintracht Frankfurt in third, where both Bayern and Bayer can both stick 4 past the side currently in third in the Bundesliga. In terms of injuries and suspensions, obviously we've mentioned that Ajax had someone sent off in that second leg against Union. That was Davy Klaassen. He is going to be suspended for this match, but it is likely that Jordan Henderson comes back into the starting lineup for him. They also have Vindal and Wout Weghorst out missing through injury. For Eintracht Frankfurt, Ebimbe and Robin Koch are going to be missing this one. They have both picked up injuries, but they do have a striker in Ekitike who is hoping to continue his rich reign of form since Marmoush has stepped away and moved to Manchester City. For me, I think this is going to be a really close one. I'd make Ajax the favourites on the night. I would make Frankfurt the favourites over the 2 legs. So I'm going to sort of go in the middle for this first leg and say that I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw between Ajax and Eintracht Frankfurt. Then we have Bodo Glimt taking on Olympiacos, and this is an incredibly interesting one to talk about. If you thought Bodo Glimt's first leg against FC Twente was chaotic, then check this out. At the end of 90 minutes, FC Twente were going to qualify for the knockout stages of the Europa League. Bodo Glimt then scored twice in injury time to make it that they were going to progress, and then FC Twente equalised, also in added time, to force extra time. 3 goals beyond the 90th minute to force extra time. From there, the game was then won by Bodo Glimt, thanks to the 3rd own goal of the match. You can't make this stuff up. It's absolutely ridiculous how Bodo Glimt have got here. And obviously Olympiacos are here because they finished 7th. So they'll be feeling much better about how they've got into this position. And thankfully for Bodo Glimt, they've had 2 weeks to calm down following all that drama. They've not actually played a competitive match since the second leg against FC Twente. But Olympiacos are a side that are now unbeaten in all of their last 26 matches. And they've won their last 4 without conceding a single goal. So, for me, it's a really, really tight one to call this. But we'll see. The big news in terms of injuries and suspensions for this match is that Olympiacos' top scorer, El Kaabi, also the Europa League top scorer as things stand, is going to be missing from at least this first leg, if not both. That is a massive injury for them. So that could make an impact on this tie. Obviously, we know how good Bodo Glimt are at home. In their 5 matches so far at home in this competition, they have won 4 of them. So something's got to give in this match. I think it's going to be a seriously close affair. I'd be surprised if we see this won by more than 1 goal one way or the other. So like I always tend to do in these sort of situations, I'm just going to go straight down the middle and go for a 1-1 draw between Bodo Glimt and Olympiacos. 2 games to go then. The first of those is AS Roma against Athletic Club Bilbao. Roma are now unbeaten in their last 6 matches under Claudio Ranieri. They're playing some fantastic stuff at the moment. They've won all of their last 4, which does, of course, include that second leg against Porto. Bilbao were unbeaten in their last 6 before their weekend's match against Atletico Madrid, where they lost 1-0. But that match was without La Liga's Player of the Month in Sanche. But as things stand, it looks like he's also going to be missing for this game against Roma, but he should be back for the second leg. As for Roma, they've managed to get Dovbig back and fit again. He scored in their victory at the weekend, but they are going to be without Paredes in midfield. He is suspended for this match. These two sides did actually meet earlier on in the season, and that was a 1-1 draw at Roma's ground. At that point in time, Ivan Juric was the manager. Bit of a fall off for him. Was managing Roma in the Europa League, is now managing a basically already relegated Southampton in the Premier League. But as I've just mentioned, since Ranieri took over, Roma have improved. So the irony about the prediction I'm about to give is I still think Bilbao should be considered the favourites to win this entire tournament. They're playing some fantastic stuff in this competition. They're second. They finished second in the league. They're playing really well in La Liga, and the final is at their ground as well. But despite all of that, I'm actually going to go for Roma to win this first leg. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to them. I think, like I say, the 1-1 draw earlier on this season should not be overlooked because Roma are playing better, which is why I'm now going for the victory for them. But we'll see. I would still expect Bilbao to win over the course of the 2 legs. And then finally, it is Victoria Plzen taking on the leaders, or the winners, shall we say, of the league phase in Lazio. Plzen yet again pulled off the big home result in the playoffs, which means that they were going through at the expense of Ferencváros. They followed that up, though, by losing at home to an already eliminated Europa League side, and that was Sparta Prague. But they did beat a Europa Conference League side in Malada at the weekend. For Lazio, they have actually come through a really tough run of fixtures in the Serie A, still in the Champions League places. They lost to Inter Milan, they drew with Napoli, but they beat AC Milan at the San Siro at the weekend, thanks to a 98th minute winner from former Chelsea and Barcelona player Pedro. For me, this is really only Lazio's game to win. I cannot see any other result other than Lazio winning both legs here. Victoria Plzen, as we've mentioned a few times, they are a very good side at home, so potentially they could nick something in this first leg. But over 2 legs, I would be absolutely stunned if Lazio don't get the victory here. Zaccagni is on absolute fire, producing man-of-the-match performances every single week in Serie A at the moment. They won the league phase for a reason. They're in the Champions League places in Italy as well. I just think Lazio win both legs. So it's only right that I do them to win the first leg here. And I'm going to round off today's predictions with a 2-0 victory to Lazio. As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know anything you think I have missed. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And we'll be back doing this all over again tomorrow morning for the Europa Conference League. I'll see you there.